Just want to check on YouTube if we're live real quick, and then we can get started. Alright, cool. We're live. Okay, so we had PCE data coming out today. Right here, where it's exactly what we're expecting. We're getting a much faster pace of this inflation, excluding food and energy, for almost since April. We've been sitting around the 0, 0.1, 0.2 slower paces, and then July we got a hike up to 0.3. We're maintaining at that 0.3% increase. That's the rate. And then, as you can see, for the most part, I think the highest one that we've had is in March for 0.4, and then a slowdown after that. So this is the fear where you have inflation, whether it's core PCE or you have CPI, all of that increasing at a faster pace, and then on top of that, you're trying to cut the interest rates. So that's the concern for a lot of these Federal Reserve officials. And we're going to get more of that consumer spending, especially as we're getting into the holiday season too. And then in 30 minutes, we also have the revised consumer sentiment coming out, so that is going to give us a nice push in the markets. So let's start off on the technical side. We've got these candle body opens. 45,700. We've got a nice rejection today into that 45,000 mark. Into that 400 area. That's what we're looking at. So we're targeting still that 45,000 mark when price rejects that 45,700 and continues pushing down. We've had that nice push on Friday, and then on Monday we had that corrective move. We corrected that a bit more on Tuesday before a bullish candle closure. Wednesday we pushed up a bit more. Yesterday we didn't have much really in the market, kind of just ranging, and that's where you had that doji candle closure, and then you have this new candle. So it seems like we're exhausting out at this new all-time high. The previous one was 45,000. We moved up about 700 points. So there are still opportunities to take advantage of on the intraday time frame, but we're not going to be holding this out as a swing trade. So this is the area that we're looking at, which is a major support area here in the past, and we're pushing up based off of the hourly time frame. This really started in London session. We got that bullish momentum, and then when PCE came out, and then we also have personal income that increased from 0.3% to 0.4%. Personal spending increased from 0.4% to 0.5%. So all of that is giving us, pretty good mixed data points in the sense that PCE is increasing, you have inflation increasing, but on the other hand, you also have personal income and spending increasing. So then here, what we're going to look for is price to maintain above the zone, and then give us a support formation here on the lower time frames, especially now that we're in the high volume time frame now with the stock exchange open. So here, for example, this previous candle, right when the stock market opened up, we got a massive top wick, rejection right into these previous resistance areas from Asian, and then price is now starting to pull back down. So for any buying opportunities, you would need a established support here and push up, which obviously we couldn't do as candles are flipping back down. For any sell opportunities, we need minor areas like this here to be broken, and then a continuation down. So this is the key area that determines whether we're looking for buys or sells. We need price to either flip above and then establish support and continue, or flip back down, establish a resistance, and then push back down. And here is pretty much where I'm not looking for a trade, because this is where I'm trying to figure out the direction. And then above this level is where you're looking for your buys. Looking for a trade, because then let's go ahead. I'm going to create an alert here as we go on to other pairs and start breaking that down. Let's go over to gold. Alright, so gold is now also approaching its own all-time highs, which is up top here. And then I'm going to mark off this previous resistance instead of a support, because in order for us to go to a support, we would need to break past these levels here first. I also want to check that on lower time frames we are establishing support on these areas, which is going to give us the confirmation for a bullish run up into 3442.5. Alright, we come onto the daily time frame. After breaking out of this daily consolidation is where you had the previous support. After breaking out of that, you've got a bit of a bottom wick rejection, and then price is trying to push its own high. So that's why this area is going to be very crucial based off the weekly time frame that price breaks below that if we're looking for any sell opportunities. You come onto the 4-hour time frame, price broke above, established a support. That's the confirmation that I'm looking for, where price can hold on to a support into this area. The reason why it's important is we've had wick rejections in here before. Then I come onto the hourly, you get a bit of consolidation, all of pretty much Asian session, and then coming into London as well, you get a corrective move. And then here, as we got closer to the New York session, price started pushing above this. So now we'll drop down to the 30, got a nice break and retest. This is with Core PCE release. And then about 30 minutes before the stock exchange open, you get a candle closure here, and this is the rally up that we're seeing now. So now to take advantage of that, in 4 minutes you have a 15-minute candle closure. Price is breaking past this previous high. You wait for this candle closure. The current one has no bottom wick whatsoever. So for you wait for the next one. In the next 3 minutes or so, when this candle closes, you wait for a bottom wick and then a push back up. You still have a pretty good range here, pretty good volume here that we're still continuing on with. So as long as price makes a bottom wick, you have enough information, data, price action to place your stop loss here and then continue that bullish momentum to the upside. And then of course keep looking to the left to see if there's any other areas of concerns that we need to watch out for. For example, right now, let me actually extend that zone over to the left. So then we see how it lines up with that little bit of consolidation that we just saw. So here, that previous high was right into that support for this consolidation. So if you wait for that bottom wick, that rejects the sellers down here, establishes a support on the 5-minute, 15-minute, all that stuff, and then a continuation up, you go for a 1-to-1 at the high of this consolidation right here at around 43 or 34, 33.2, and then a continuation from that. That's pretty much free money to the upside where you have runners going. You've trailed your stop loss, you've taken partials, all that good stuff. So really I'm just gonna place an alert up top here, but in the next 2 minutes we're basically waiting for a bottom wick, break above, and then a continuation up. Or if price rejects that and then pulls back down, then obviously you have your sells to correct the sellers or this buyer's pressure to come back down into 34.07. Alright, same thing here. In about 2 minutes, we're going to have this 15-minute candle closure. So when we drop down to the 5-minute, you see that volatility kicking in. This was the news release. We maintain the bullish structure, but you see how price is breaking the highs and lows. And then this is the actual stock exchange open. Massive rejection. The next one, that's when we were analyzing the chart. It was bearish and then candle flipped, closed bullish, and then you had this new 5-minute, which made a bottom wick, and it's breaking those highs. So now this is where we're going to look for our buy opportunities in about a minute or so when this candle closes, and then makes a bottom wick and pushes back up. It's also 15 minutes before an hourly candle closure, so if I don't see the confirmation, let's say price pulls back down bearish into this area, I'm pretty much waiting for it to establish a support here, which we might get at the new hourly candle as well. Alright, here's the new 15 and the 5 minute. So we've had a nice bottom wick rejection on this 15, a push back up, stock exchange open. You're just looking for a bottom wick, price to break its own high, push back up. We're going to target a 1-to-1 first, and then a continuation. Alright, so we're gonna go in here, and today we're gonna go in with low risk because we have consumer sentiment coming out soon too. Start with that, place your stop loss right underneath the zone. Your 1-to-1 should be somewhere around here, but we're ultimately targeting here first. So this is going to be your low risk trade first, which is basically you're going based off of the volume. So as long as price can maintain, you know, this and then continue pushing, you're pretty solid. Or if you don't want to take this entry, then what you would do, pretty much, let me just show you guys real quick. What you would do is climb up to the higher time frames, extend this out to the left. You're gonna look for price candle closures and let's say the next 13 minutes or so above this zone. This is the main zone. This is where we need to establish a new support for that continued move to the upside. So for example, we're out of that trade, but you would wait for an established support somewhere down here and then that continuation back up to the upside. But with consumer sentiment, it's going to be an orange folder. So let's say if consumer sentiment we're expecting from 58.6 to 58.7, if you get a higher number, let's say we come closer to 59 or even 60, that's what's really going to help you push this even further up. So we already have that momentum from PCE release, the personal income spending and personal income and personal spending increasing. So you already have that bullish momentum to the upside. You just get that final push with the consumer sentiment and then a continuation up from there. And then, yeah, for this one, we're pretty much out of this trade right now. Then we check on gold real quick. Gold is also breaking out of the zone, but we're still giving it enough room too. So in about 12 minutes, we're going to have news coming out, and that's what we're going to take our next entry on. I'm going to adjust my alert a little bit below the zone for any sell opportunities, just to give price enough room to wick around rejections, all that stuff. Because so far we've had that bearish pullback from yesterday, and then today seems like we've corrected more than half of that already. So that's why I'm gonna give enough room just in case it wants to work around and do any of that stuff. I don't think there's any other pairs that we're going to be watching today. For the rest of these pairs, we're looking at more of the higher time frame, so I wouldn't really bother with them. Alright, 9 more minutes. We're actually going to wait for the hourly candle closure at this point. Alright, got about a minute left, then we have news coming out. Oh, not. We have about a minute left, and then we have a 5-minute candle closure, and then after that we have news coming out. Alright, we got a 5-minute candle closure. Nice bottom wick rejection. Final 5 minutes of this hourly. So let's see how this hourly candle closes. And then same thing here. If we get a 15-minute candle closure here, we'll still need a rejection here. And then a push back down. Gold is pushing as well. Let's look to the left. Pretty good. We're gonna wait 4 more minutes here. This is pretty much set to just keep pushing up to that resistance. On lower time frames, I would want to see again that bottom wick, or on the 5-minute, a pull back down somewhere closer to 34.25 or 34.24 area. Establish support, correct that bullish momentum that we see, and then continue that bullish momentum to the upside. That should give us a free run up to closer to 34.40, not necessarily purely to the resistance, but a bit more, a halfway run up more, until we need to establish another support and keep pushing. Something like this, where you can create a new high and then keep pushing. Alright, nice. So this 5-minute has already given us a nice top wick rejection right into that area. So our first entry should be low risk before the 7 o'clock candle open, and then now is when I would be going with the normal 1.52%, anything like that. Alright, we got the final couple of seconds. I do take into account the 4-hour candle closure, but we have 3 hours right now for the 4-hour. So then I'm going to drop down to the 1-hour time frame. I'm going to take a look at the way that's behaving. So here, for example, massive top wick rejection, which is the corrective of the seller's pressure, right? And then as we drop down to lower time frames, we also saw how there's consolidation, within this price action here. So then now when I get this hourly candle closure, like here, for example, I want to see this next one making a top wick and then breaking its own low for those sell opportunities to the downside. Of course, we're going to take a look at data here just in a second. Consumer sentiment just came out, and then inflation expectations as well. So then I would want the hourly in my direction as well if I'm looking for a longer term trade. But if I'm looking for a quick scalp and I see that there's opportunity for that, then I can drop down to lower time frames and just understand that this is where my trade is going to be capped out on based off of the hourly and the 4 hour. Alright, consumer sentiment has dropped from 58.6. We're expecting an increase to 58.7. We got to drop down to 58.2. Inflation expectations pretty much around the same number as previous, just 0.1% less. So we're expecting a continued drop here for US 30. We're going to look for a top wick on this 15, and then we're going to wait for it to flip, break its own low, and then continue pushing further down. Same thing, you target your 1-to-1, so around the support area here, based off the 15-minute time frame, and then a continuation down from there. Your 5-minute is just to test the volume to see if price keeps breaking its own low and things like that. Your confirmations for the actual entry comes from the 15 at the lowest or the 30-minute time frame. So on the 15, we got a nice top wick rejection. That's exactly what we're looking for. And then we're waiting for this candle to break its own low and then continue pushing further down. The way that would look like on the 5-minute is you already had kind of a weak bullish candle closure 5 minutes before the new hourly opened, and then news just came out. This one made a massive top wick because we were expecting that there was going to be an increase in the consumer sentiment. Came back down and now it's breaking its low, so this is an opportunity that we take. So there's two ways, even if you're taking this entry. Number one, before I take the entry, let me just show you guys. Number one, either you wait for the next 2 minutes, you wait for this bearish candle closure, and then you take an entry on the next one once it gives you a top wick, or if let's say this one closes at the low of its own range and the next one starts with no top wick at all and continues pushing bearish. In that case, you don't really have an understanding of where would your safe stop loss be, because you haven't kicked the buyers out within that first 5-minute time frame, right? And so here, if I take an entry right now, my stop loss would be above this zone, but I had a massive top wick rejection. So what I can do is wait for this 5-minute candle closure. Hopefully the next one gives you a top wick and pushes down. If that does, then I can place a tighter stop loss somewhere around here or even at the zone. Or if I don't get a top wick on the next candle, let's say this one just closes somewhere around here, and then the next one starts forming with no top wick, something like this, then I'm waiting pretty much for the next candle. But in a 15-minute candle, you have still 3 5-minute candles that you can take a trade on. So I'm going to wait just so I can show you guys the next example. Hopefully we'll get a top wick, but this would be the ideal entry, stop loss somewhere around here, but that's a massive top wick, so we just wait it out. I'll show you guys pretty much how I would be taking that entry. And then on gold, you're pretty much doing the same thing. We don't have a top wick here on gold. Oh, sorry, a bottom wick on gold. It's pushing bullish. So here, I would want price to pull back a bit more, establish a support, and then keep pushing at some point. As of right now, we're just waiting for 5-minute candle closures, bottom wick, keep pushing, and then that's a continuation up. Alright, so you have about 40 seconds until this candle closes. And once you clear below this, it's pretty much a free fall coming back down into 45,384, and then clean momentum further down into 45,342. So about 40 points of clean movement, and then a continuation down from there too. Alright, so this candle made a bit of a bottom wick. This one makes a little bit of a top wick and then continues pushing, and that's the sell that you're looking for. Alright, so that's the sell that we're going to go in for. Right there. Stop loss. Pop up. What I'm really looking at is the support. So just a little bit above the entry candle's top wick, right at the support. And then TP, I'm going to set that, well, already a 2-to-1 based off of that, but I'm looking for a continuation down. I'm going to target this previous resistance here. And then as price gets closer to that, then you increase your TP from there. So this is what I'm targeting. This is what I need price to close below or break below, and then a continuation down. And based off of that, I'm going to keep my stop loss right at the support zone, because that's a major support zone that price has broken past, but barely, a little bit of a top wick and then a continuation down. So that's my entry at 435. Just going to bring it down to a whole number here. Same thing there. So here I would want this 5-minute candle closure at the zone or below it, and then after that you're just waiting for either a top wick or pullback, establish resistance here, continue pushing further down. But when you hop up to the higher time frames on the 15-minute, we had a massive top wick and huge seller's pressure to the downside. So that's why we need those top wicks, that's why we need that resistance formation, all that stuff. So then price pulls down, you get a bit of a correction and then a continuation down. You don't necessarily get a huge sell-off just like that unless there's news supporting it. So like if something about, you know, Trump or Lisa Cook and all that stuff like yesterday came out, and then that's what's really going to give you that massive drop. But this is purely economic data, the market's pricing all that stuff in. So that's why we need to wait for that healthy technical moves here. This is where I'm going to manage it while we look at gold real quick. Alright, gold had some good movement, and then here's a new 5-minute, made a top wick, push back down, made a bottom wick right here. Let's see if we can get a little bit more of a pullback. Obviously not all the way down to 34.24 anymore, but a bit of a pullback somewhere around here, and then a continuation up. Or even a consolidation if there's a lot of bullish pressure here. Since we're watching it, we don't need the alert here anymore. Alright, the final 5 minutes before 15-minute candle closure. Once again, hop up to the 15. That's huge bearish candle right here. So as long as we close in this and then top wick and push back down. Alright, 2 minutes until this 15-minute candle. This one's got some nice movement today. Alright, we got that 15-minute candle closure. Nice bottom wick. And the 1-to-1 to take our first partials. Well, into the zone, it's already 2-to-1. So if price comes back and taps into that. But the 1-to-1 is really like somewhere around here, where price is sitting at right now. So your 2-to-1 is right into the zone if you take partials there. But we have the Lisa Cook hearing going on right now. On Bloomberg, they have the updates by minute by minute. And that's the 2-to-1. We'll take partials here. And what I'm looking for here is if this 15 can break the previous low, even if it kind of ranges around here for a little bit. Because if it can break that low, then I know that it's going to be pretty good movement to our first TP area. If it just rejects into the zone, then we're looking at either price kind of hanging around here, consolidating, or just ranging into this. Especially right now as a hearing is going on with Lisa Cook. So that's where we're going to be a little bit more conservative with this trade instead of just holding it out. Really trying to manage it and trying to take as much profit as we can here. So that's why we're taking partials at this level. Alright, there's a very high chance we might consolidate out here, given that in this case they're saying that there might not be much of a ruling or any updates. Yeah, have a good one, Tony. We're gonna stick around until this 30-minute candle closure and then manage the trade basically move to break even or something like that. We've already taken partials, so we're pretty good. Regardless, this is going to be a winning trade. Alright, gotta push up. We might get more volatility on Tuesday. That's what Cook's attorneys are saying they're gonna file their motions on. Alright, so cool, we're out. We've already taken partials. Regardless, this should be a winning trade. There's a very high chance we're just going to end up consolidating out here until we get more news. So right now, the eyes are pretty much on this Lisa Cook case. And that's important because this is determining that political interference into Fed's independence. So it seems like, and on Bloomberg, you guys can pretty much come back here. Let me just show you guys real quick. Come on to Bloomberg. It's the first headline here. You're getting these updates by every minute. So it doesn't seem like they're going to do anything today. And Cook's attorney has said that he's going to file a response to the government's opposition by Tuesday. So this is what we're going to be following. If there's no update here, Lisa Cook's not even in attendance. So they're really not going to do anything today. But on Tuesday, we might get more volatility when we get more news on this. Alright, cool. That's pretty much it. I don't think there's going to be any other setup. If there is, it's going to be below the zone. So if you want, I can create an alert here. Whenever that hits, I'll update you guys in Discord. And then I'll see you guys tomorrow for the boot camp.